They told you to be kind, to be soft, to fit in. But here's the truth. You were never meant to blend in with cowards. You were meant to stand alone like a sharpened knife in a drawer full of spoons. Friends? No. Friends are the chains they use to slow you down. You don't need friend. You need obsession. You need silence. You need war. Welcome to the side of you that no one claps for. The version that doesn't need love, just results. You see, most people live in a prison they decorate with friendship. They throw parties inside their own cages, laugh, toast, smile while the walls close in on their potential. They call it a circle, but I've seen enough circles to know some are just nooses tied neatly with loyalty. Every man chasing greatness must, at some point, feel the stab of betrayal. It's tradition. Friends will applaud you when you're quiet, but the moment you start speaking like you know who you are, they flinch, because the mirror of your ambition reminds them of their wasted years. Let me tell you a little secret. The more focused you become, the more enemies you make. Why? Because people don't hate you. They hate their own reflection in your discipline. They don't resent your success. They resent your refusal to stay average with them. There was a time I had friends too. They called me brother until I said I wanted to be king. They laughed when I skipped nights out. They mocked when I worked alone. They smirked when I didn't respond to gossip. But the laughs stopped. They stopped the moment I walked past them with nothing but silence and fire in my eye. Learn to enjoy the sound of your own rage echoing through an empty room, because that's where warriors are born, not in crowds, not in comfort, but in corners and chaos, where you meet the monster you were supposed to become. Let them say you changed. Let them whisper behind backs. Let them choke on the version of you that doesn't beg for validation. You're not cold. You're clear. You're not heartless. You're focused. Friends want to hang out. Purpose wants to devour you. Friends want time. Legacy wants blood. This world, it does not reward the loudest. It rewards the most obsessed. So ask yourself, who's been feeding you lies? Who's been distracting you with mediocrity dressed as friendship? Who's been clapping for you just loud enough to keep you from hearing the truth? You know who they are, and it's time you buried them. Not in soil, but in memory. From this moment on, you're not one of them. You are a ghost among shadows, a weapon disguised as a man, a calm storm no one sees until it's too late. No more bonding over trauma. No more group therapy disguised as late-night hangout. No more hand-holding on the battlefield. You don't need friends. You need rage. You need silence. You need victory. Because at the end of the road, there will be no hand to hold, only a crown, and the scars you earned crawling toward it. They want you soft, friendly, approachable. They want your fire on a leash, your genius diluted, your instincts silenced under the polite applause of fools. But you were built for something filthier, darker, rarer. You were not made to be liked. You were made to be legendary. And legends, they don't have fan club. They have scars. Let me tell you what nobody wants to admit. That a man who masters focus becomes something dangerous. Not violent, not cruel, but untouchable. When you walk past people with that dead calm in your eyes, that I'm building a kingdom in my head silence, they feel it. They flinch. They don't know if you're a prophet or a weapon. And the truth is, you're both. Friendship is a drug, and you've been high for years. It starts small. Let's chill. Let's talk. Let's waste the night together pretending it means something. But that's not connection. That's sedation. It's the slow bleeding of ambition in the name of belonging. They don't want you focused. They want you familiar, predictable, like them. Because the moment you rise, you remind them of what they could have been. And people hate that more than they hate evil. They hate reminders. You don't need friends, you need 5 a.m. You need that notebook no one sees. You need 6 missed calls and 1 answered prayer. The one where you asked the universe for something more, and the universe answered with loneliness, because it knew only the isolated ever become immortal. Here's what they don't teach in schools. Greatness isn't born, it's summoned through madness, through sacrifice, through silence. So loud you hear your future screaming at you. No comfort, no company, just obsession on repeat, like a sermon for the damned. Your rituals are no longer brunch and birthday texts. Your rituals are waking before the world dares to yawn, bleeding into ideas while others scroll through noise, trading affection for precision, choosing structure over sympathy, because soft men chase love, sharp men chase purpose. You think I'm being cruel? Good. Let cruelty wake you up. You've spent too long drunk on friendship, too long giggling with ghosts, too long hugging people who wouldn't catch you if you jumped. You've been loyal to those who mock your hunger, and now your hunger is mocking you back. Let them call you arrogant. Let them say you think you're better. You are, not in blood, not in birth, but in discipline. You built something inside that doesn't bend when they laugh, that doesn't cry when they leave, that doesn't pause when they gossip. That part of you, the one that wants to go dark, to go deep, to disappear and build. That's not weakness. That's your real self knocking. Let him in. There's a room inside every man. No doors, no window, just silence and a voice that doesn't lie. Most never go in. They keep the music loud, the friends close, the distractions loaded, because if they ever dared, if they ever sat in that room long enough, they'd meet the truth. And truth doesn't hold your hand. It punches, it bleeds, it screams. You were made for more than this. That's the chamber of isolation, and I live there now. No couches, no visitors, no small talk, just cold focus, brutal routines, and a mirror that doesn't flash. Pain is a password. Most never learn to type. They say pain is your enemy. No, pain is a gatekeeper. It guards the throne you keep dreaming about, and if you can't walk through it, you're not ready to sit there. You think the great ones got there smiling. No, they bled. They buried friendships in the dirt. They starved for clarity. They abandoned birthdays, weddings, comfort, all to become something else, something terrifying, something unrecognizable, something necessary. You want to be liked by a puppy. You want to be free. Learn how to weaponize your suffering, not cry about it, not medicate it, not talk it out over drinks. Sit with it. Study it. Let it burn you into a new shape. Because most men, they run from pain into people, into parties, into false support. But support is a sugar cube. It tastes sweet, but it weakens your teeth. The man who doesn't need people terrifies them. When you stop calling, when you stop showing up, when your presence becomes a mystery, they panic, they gossip. They ask what happened. They lie and say he must be lost. But deep down, they know you're not lost. You're loaded. You're locked in. You're lethal. Because the man who walks alone owns the road. No arguments. No votes. No compromise. Just one man. One mission. One outcome. Death to the approval junkie. If you're still chasing applause, you're still asleep, because approval is a leash held by people who've never built anything, and they love when you meet them. They love when you ask, was that okay? Do you like it? Am I good enough? Pathetic. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be undeniable. And when you become that, when your name becomes heavy in their mouths, they'll either bow or break. So burn the old version of you, the one that needed friends to feel valid, the one that texted back just to keep the peace, the one that dimmed his fire so others wouldn't feel cold. Kill him. You don't need peace. You need power, and power comes from choosing yourself again and again. Even when no one claps, especially when no one claps, eventually something strange happens. You stop caring if they understand. You stop texting back. You stop showing up for people who never showed up for you. Not out of hate, not out of ego, but because you've outgrown the skin they once fit inside. You become something else. Not a man, not even a monster. You become a ghost of purpose. You move in silence now, not because you're shy, because you're surgical. Every word you don't say is a warning. Every exit you don't explain is a sentence. They feel your absence like a burn, and they try to find you again, but you're gone, not dead, not hiding, evolved. The day you go silent is the day you become dangerous. Remember the day you stopped posting, the day you stopped explaining, the day you realized that noise is a poor substitute for mastery. That was your rebirth. From then on, every room you walk into, you own, not because you speak the loudest, but because you say nothing at all and still shift the atmosphere. They feel your intensity before you even open your mouth. They shrink in your shadow, not knowing what you've seen, what you've sacrificed, what you've become. Let me ask you something. What's louder than a man who doesn't flinch? Not angry, not arrogant, just unfazed. The kind of man who's seen too much, lost too much, earned too much to care about the approval of strangers. That man is untouchable, and untouchable men don't keep friends. They keep distance. They keep edge. They keep power. The last funeral you attend is your own, not your body, not your flesh, your old self, the soft version, the one who waited for invites, the one who shared his dreams with the wrong ears, the one who begged to be seen. You bury him in silence. No tombstone, no flowers, no eulogy, just a deep hole in the soul and the echo of a decision that changed everything. From that moment on, you stop walking and start hunting. You stop hoping and start crafting. You stop needing and start building. They say you've changed. Good. They say you've become cold. Perfect. They say you're not the same anymore. Exactly. Because the old you, he needed friends. This one just needs focus. They told you to find love. They told you to settle down, to build your life around people, connection, romance. But they never told you what love cost. They never told you that falling in love with people often means falling out of love with your purpose. Obsession, though, she doesn't cheat. She doesn't lie. She doesn't get bored. She doesn't ask for dinners or weekends off. She wants everything, and she gives you everything. All she asks in return is your soul. And if you're brave enough, if you're hungry enough, you'll marry her and leave behind the world of men for the throne of gods. Comfort is a lullaby, sung by failure. You want comfort? Here's what comfort gives you. A warm circle, a slow death. Because comfort is how the world murders men with potential. They won't stab you. They'll feed you. They'll give you just enough likes, just enough friends, just enough fake love to keep you tamed. You'll feel safe, and that's when they own you. But you didn't come here to feel safe. You came here to dominate, and domination begins where comfort ends. Loneliness is the furnace. Let it burn you into steel. You will be lonely. Let me make that clear. The path to greatness is littered with empty rooms. No one claps, no one checks in, no one waits for you. They think you're crazy. They think you're lost. They think you're arrogant. But the real ones, they know that silence is holy, that madness is a gift, That loneliness is a forge, where the noise dies, where the weakness burns off, where the man you were meant to be finally emerges. Let it burn, let it strip the softness from your skin, let it cook your fears, until only hunger remains, because the deeper your isolation, the sharper your vision. You don't become focused in crowds, you become focused in cave. You're not meant to be remembered, you're meant to become a myth. Listen carefully. People don't remember those who fit in, people remember the ones who refused to. They remember the outcasts, the feared, the upset, the ones who disappeared for a decade and came back with an empire. You want legacy? Then disappear. Let them forget you. Let them move on. Let them think you failed, because the next time they hear your name, it will not be spoken. It will be whispered, with awe, with fear, with trembling respect, because legends are not born on stage. They're born in hell, in obsession, in focus. So violent it frightens God. So here you are. No fans, no followers, no friends, just silence and a pile of bricks. This is how the empire begins. No welcome party, no round of applause, just you, your demons, and a deadline only you understand. And every day, you lay another brick, not because anyone's watching, not because anyone believes in you, but because you do. And that is the deadliest kind of belief. Friends distract, focus construct. People mean well, they always do, but they don't understand what you're building, because they've never built anything themselves. They see your distance as arrogance, they call your obsession unhealthy, they call your discipline extreme. But what they really mean is, please come back down here. You're making us uncomfortable, because your silence reminds them they're noisy. Your focus reminds them they're scattered. Your structure reminds them they're crumbling. You want to know the truth. Most of your friends are not supporting you. They're surveilling you, waiting, watching, counting your failures. They smile in person, but secretly, they hope you never get there. Because if you do, it proves they wasted their life on comfort. And nobody likes the man who exposes their excuses. Emotion is the enemy of execution. You cannot build while you're busy feeling. You cannot conquer while you're busy caring. Emotion is a thief, a smooth-talking liar that keeps whispering. Don't be too cold, but purpose doesn't care if you're cold. Purpose just asks, did you move the needle today? Or not. You don't need to be more emotional. You need to be more lethal, not cruel, not inhuman, just uninterrupted. Because clarity only shows up when emotion shuts the hell up. The day you become fluent in silence, there will come a day when silence no longer scares you. In fact, it will become your first language. You'll walk into crowded rooms and say nothing. You'll listen while others scream for validation. You'll smile, not to be polite, but because you already know who wins in the end. The quiet one, the focused one, the one nobody believed in until it was too late. You will forget birthdays. You will be misunderstood. You will be alone for years. But one day, they will look up, and there you'll be, a monument of silence, a fortress of focus, a kingdom made of everything you never explored. At some point in your transformation, you will feel the final pull, the dying gasp of your old self, trying to belong. It'll sound like death. Explain yourself. Clear up the misunderstanding. Prove them wrong. But now you know better. Now you're fluent in silence. Now you understand the final law of power. The man who needs to be understood will always be owned. You want to be feared? Stop explaining. Stop clarifying. Stop asking for forgiveness. Let them choke on your silence. Let them stew in their own assumptions. Let them scream your name in confusion while you sharpen your next move in shadows. You don't owe them clarity. You owe them a legacy. Cut the cord, burn the bridge. It's time to become brutal, not externally, but internally. Brutal with your own weakness. Brutal with your emotional dependencies. Brutal with your hidden need to be liked. It doesn't belong here anymore. You're not here to entertain. You're not here to be approved. You are here to dominate. And domination requires detachment. The less you need, the more dangerous you become. Think about it. They can't guilt you if you don't feel guilty. They can't cancel you if you cancel your need for applause. They can't manipulate you if you've murdered your need to be understood. Now that's power, not performative, not reactive, quiet, immovable, volcanic. Untouchable is not a status. It's a state of mind. Untouchable doesn't mean rich. It doesn't mean famous. It means you don't flinch. You don't negotiate with fear. You don't consult the opinions of sheep. You don't live your life like a PR campaign. You move how you move, because your vision told you to. And if people don't get it, perfect, because the more confused they are, the more focused you've become. You don't owe anyone the truth, when the results will do all the talking. Your wins won't need subtitles. Your success will be spoken in silence. Your name will echo without your presence. That's legacy. That's terror. That's the final evolution. When your legacy enters rooms before you do, there will come a day when you enter a room and no one will breathe the same. Not because you've threatened them, not because you've flexed, but because your energy, your aura will haunt their comfort. They'll look at you and feel small, because everything about you says, this man walked through hell and never asked for directions. They'll hear about you long before they meet you, and when they finally do, they won't meet a man. They'll meet a standard, and standards don't speak. They exist, and the world adjusts around them. At first, solitude felt like a punishment, like the world had turned its back on you. But now you see the truth. Solitude was never a curse. It was an initiation, a test. Because the universe does not give power to the noisy. It gives power to the man who can sit in the dark, hear nothing, feel nothing, and still choose war. You were never abandoned. You were chosen to walk a path so narrow, so savage, so untouchable, that no one could follow. And now you understand. You don't want to be followed. You want to be remembered. Immunity to emotion is the final mutation. You've buried love. You've buried trust. You've buried every soft expectation of how life should feel. And what rose in its place? Focus. Brutal, surgical, lethal focus. Now when people leave, you don't flinch. When they lie, you don't react. When they try to guilt you, you smile, because they don't know. You've already buried every version of yourself that needed them. They're arguing with a ghost, and ghosts don't bleed. You've become emotionally untouchable. Not dead, not numb, just precise. You still feel, but the feelings don't drive the car anymore. Discipline does, purpose does, vision does. And if someone tries to hijack that, they'll learn the hard way. You cut people off like dead limbs. Clean, painless, permanent. Every room you enter is now too small. You'll notice something odd as you evolve. No room feels right anymore. The jokes are shallow. The topics are useless. The energy is noisy, because you've grown too big for these rooms. Too sharp, too rare, too focused. You don't belong in crowds. You belong in labs, in temples, in trenches. You're no longer here to hang out. You're here to build. And most rooms are built for distraction, not domination. Don't shrink to fit in. Let the room fracture around you. Let your silence pressurize the walls. Let your energy suffocate the mediocre. Let your presence expose their laziness, like light exposes roaches. You're not too intense. They're just too casual, and casual men die slow. Make peace with shadows, not people. At this level, your only real companions are shadows. They don't gossip. They don't distract. They don't need anything from you. They just exist, like you, focused, quiet, obsessed. Your conversations happen in your head now. Your debates echo in journals. Your validation comes from results, not recognition. And when it gets too quiet, you smile, because silence is the sound of you becoming. You still remember it, don't you? That moment, that precise moment, when they switched up on you. The friend, The partner, the brother, the handshake that became a knife, the hug that hit a dagger, the smile that said, "I hope you never make it." It didn't just sting, it rewired you. Because betrayal is not just a wound, it's a blueprint. It shows you exactly who never deserved a seat at your table, and exactly what kind of monster you were forced to become to never need anyone again. Let them lie. Let them play victim. Let them post quotes about loyalty. You don't need revenge. You've got results, and results are loud enough to make traitors whisper. A civil war between who you were and who you promised yourself you'd become. And guess what? You're winning, not because it's easy, but because you've chosen violence. Internal violence. You've chosen to attack your own laziness, to murder your distraction, to burn every excuse like it insulted your bloodline. This isn't self-help. This is self-destruction with a purpose. The man you are today is standing on the ashes of the man you used to be. And no friend helped you with that. No phone call made that easier. You did that alone. You wrestled your own darkness until it submitted. You locked yourself in rooms with nothing but pressure and walked out a weapon. Relationships are the new chains. They used to use iron. Now they use affection, approval, love bombs. You think you're free, but you're just well fed. They don't lock you in cages anymore. They hand you comfort. They sell you connection. They say, you deserve to be surrounded by love. But all love isn't pure. Some love is bait. They don't want you powerful. They want you grateful. They want you manageable. Because a man who is focused is terrifying. He doesn't flinch at absence. He doesn't fold under silence. He doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't break. He chooses. And people hate men who don't need them. Your solitude terrifies society. You've noticed it by now. The stares, the unease, the way people fidget around you. It's not because you're loud. It's because you're still and uncertain. And in a world addicted to noise, certainty feels like a threat. They don't understand how you don't need anyone. How you wake up before dawn and answer to no one. How your presence isn't theatrical. It's tectonic. They'll call you toxic. They'll call you distant. They'll say he's changed. But the truth, you didn't change. You just stopped needing applause for breathing. And now they can't control you, so they fear you. Most people want motivation. You want momentum. Because motivation is emotional, fleeting, fickle, fragile. It depends on mood, music, or some cheesy video clip. But momentum, that's mechanical, unstoppable, inevitable. You don't care if it's raining, if you're tired, if your emotions are screaming. The machine moves, the wheels grind, the hammer drops, and every day, the world hears the sound of your discipline, echoing like a war drum. Wake, work, win, repeat. You are not in a grind. You are the grind, the sharpened edge of every hour you didn't waste, every emotion you didn't obey, every friend you didn't need. You are no longer a man. You are a system. Feelings have been replaced by formulas. Hope has been replaced by heat maps. Wishing has been replaced by war strategies. You don't move like a man anymore. You move like a code. Cold, clean, efficient. You eat at the same time. You train with precision. You study like your mind is a weapon. And every distraction is a bullet aimed at your future. While others are out connecting, you're in the shadows, compiling power, stacking energy, designing inevitability. You are the ghost in the system, the whisper they can't trace, the discipline they'll never match. And when you show up, you don't need to say a word. Your results walk in first. You will never return to the herd. They'll try to pull you back. Old friends, family, ex-lovers. They'll say, you've changed. You're too distant now. You think you're better than us. No, you know you are. Because you didn't just survive the darkness. You domesticated it. You built your palace in the silence. And now, you are no longer reachable by the average. They can't guilt you. They can't lure you. You're not lonely. You're elevated. And returning to the herd now would be like an apex predator asking sheep for approval. You're not going back. You didn't climb this high to breathe the air of the average. The world bows to the man who bowed to no one. They laughed at you. When you cut people off, they judged you. When you disappeared, they whispered behind your back while you built in silence. And now their daughters want you. Their sons want to be you. Their eyes shift when your name is spoken. Why? Because you bowed to no one, and the world secretly worships that. They hate what they envy. They mock what they fear. But in the end, they kneel for the man who never kneeled to them. So walk into rooms with your head high and your heart quiet. You don't need their energy. You are the energy. You don't need their friendship. You have your focus. And now, that focus is a crown, invisible to the blind, blinding to the weak. You used to talk too much. You used to explain yourself, apologize for being intense, over-explain your drive to people who couldn't even spell ambition. But not anymore. Now you let the silence speak. Because when you walk in silence, people listen harder. They feel your energy. Before you speak, they sense the storm, but they can't trace its eye. They used to laugh at you. Now they get quiet around you. Not because you're dangerous, but because they realize you're not like them anymore. You don't need to prove your worth. You are the proof. And while they're screaming online for validation, you're stacking victories. Quietly, you cut emotion from the equation. You've become dangerous. Not because you're violent, but because you've mastered what they never will. Emotional detachment. You don't react. You respond. With logic. With precision. With intention. You've severed the need for approval. You've bled out the craving for attention. You've cauterized the wound of emotional dependency. You make moves based on strategy, not sympathy. On trajectory, not tears. And that, my friend, makes you untouchable. Because while others are drowning in feelings, you are calculating rain. You are measuring threat. You are scanning the board. Like a war general with nothing left to lose, you don't fight battles emotionally anymore. You end them. Mathematically, fear is your new pre-workout. You don't avoid fear anymore. You sip it like black coffee. You welcome it. You shake hands with it like an old friend. The kind that never lies to you. Fear tells you where the edge is. Where the real work begins. Where the fake ones tap out. And every time your heart races, every time your palms sweat, you smile. Because you know the average man runs at this feeling. But you hunt it. You feel the fear. And you keep walking. Because now you understand something most never will. Fear is just the GPS system of the beast inside you. Follow it, and it will lead you to the version of yourself they swore you'd never become. The return of the man they buried too early. They thought you were finished, forgotten, erased. But that version of you they knew. He died for a reason. He had to be sacrificed. So this version, this unshakable, unchained entity, could be born. You went underground. You vanished. And they called it failure. But while they laughed, you were training, learning, sharpening your silence into a blade. Now you're back. Not to be liked. Not to be accepted. You're back to conquer. And this time, you're not asking for anything. You're taking what they thought you'd never reach. So now you understand. It was never about friend. It was never about fitting in. It was never about being understood. It was about the beast you were hiding. The discipline you were forging, the kingdom you were building in silence. While they mocked your absence, you weren't alone. You were in training. You weren't losing friends. You were shedding dead weight. You weren't isolating. You were elevating. Because altitude is a lonely place, and only those who can survive the oxygen of greatness ever reach it. The world told you to balance. You chose to burn. They told you to slow down. You chose to sharpen. They begged you to come back. You chose to never return. Because in the end, you didn't want friends. You didn't want followers. You didn't want validation. You wanted dominion. And now, you have it. Because you turned silence into steel. You turned pain into protocol. You turned focus into a force of nature. They say the loudest man in the room is the weakest. But the man who walks in silence, with eyes like weapons, and a heart made of fire, He doesn't need to speak. The room bends for him, so let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them misunderstand. You don't exist for them. You don't fight for attention. You don't kneel for acceptance. You fight for the one man who stayed with you when everyone left. The version of yourself who refused to quit. And now, that version has become a legend. Your legacy begins now, not when they approve, but when you finally understand. You never needed friends. You needed focus. And now, you are unstoppable.